Hello guys, welcome to the channel. My name is Excoundrel. I hope you're all doing well. If you're coming from the up next page or the home page or you've never seen me before, I do educational Wild Rift content. I mainly focus on champion guides. I mainly focus on education around how to play Wild Rift. I do esports analysis. I do high elo game breakdowns, all that kind of good stuff that helps you become a better player overall. So I hope that you enjoy the channel, and if you do, feel free to subscribe and hit that notification bell. It would definitely mean a lot to me. So to celebrate the Lunar Beast event and also the fact that I'm so close to 100,000 subscribers, I am going to be giving away 5 skins of 100,000 wildcore value or below. 5 separate skins for 5 separate winners. All you need to do to be involved is make sure you're subscribed to the channel. You leave a comment down below telling me what you think of Xayah and Rakan, and also make sure that you leave your username so that I can select the winner, and also follow the link in my pinned comment to my Twitter and give me a follow. Those 3 things will qualify you for a giveaway, and then I will do a random draw and double check that you've followed all the steps, and then give those skins away on Monday. So you have 3 days to do all of those steps. Relatively easy. I know it's a bit of a ploy to get you to follow my Twitter, but I'm also pretty close to 10,000 followers on Twitter. So, and also I really want to talk to people about Wild Rift. I need more people following me who will talk to me about Wild Rift on Twitter. So it's a little bit of a push to get people to go to my Twitter and give it a follow. But 5 skins, skin of your choice, as long as it's 100,000 wild cores or below. If you want a champion, that's fine too. It's just any gift of 100,000 wild cores or below, and you will get your hands on it as long as you follow those steps. So let's dive straight into the Rakan guide, now that's said. Now, what am I doing today? Before I get into it, thanks to G2A for sponsoring the channel, reference link in the description below. Obviously today, Xayah and Rakan have just been released, and they've been released together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a Xayah and Rakan guide, and I'm going to do both of them in one video. So I'm not going to split it up into 2 videos. I'm going to give you all of the information on the new champions ASAP. And I'm going to start with Rakan because I'm a support main. And what we're going to do is we're going to go through items, runes, and spells, as you see on this page. We're going to talk through ability maxing, so which abilities that you want to max first and why. And then we're going to go through some combos that you can pull off with either of these champions. And then I'm going to do Xayah, do the same thing. And then I'll give you a little bit of some clips of a video that I'm going to publish tomorrow, which is essentially highlights from some games of Rakan I played, just showing you what you can do with him in game. And I'll give you all of the timestamps to everything in the description below. So let's start off with Rakan. This is my favorite build for Rakan, as I've kind of figured out so far. I very, very rarely get past harmonic echoes, and what I would say to you is after you get to harmonic echoes, everything beyond that, the last 2 items, are very situational, and it completely depends on the game that you're playing. For instance, I played into a game where I had an Aurelian Soul with Liandry's. Instead of Abyssal Mask, I went for Adaptive Helm to make sure I was reducing damage against me significantly. So this is the particular item build path that I like. You could also consider Ardent Sensor if you're going with an attack speed AD carry, but it's not like you're a Lulu. You're not always going to shield the AD carry. You may be looking to use the shield offensively, but we'll get into that later on. As with all supports, you rush Locket first, and then I think Zeke's Convergence with Rakan is absolutely broken. You use it, you're already using your ultimate to group up the enemies anyway, or using to charm them. So this is just going to slow them down and also increase damage dealt to them. And then like Protector's Vow, because when you dive on them, an ally with a shield, you're automatically going to proc that. And then I love Harmonic Echoes for the same reason. You have shield up quite often. You're a very high mobility champion, so you're going to generate a lot of Harmonic Echo stacks, and that's going to allow you to proc that quite frequently too. There are 2 major rune choices that you can consider with Rakan. Font of Life, which is going to heal equal to 3% of your max health. So when you mark an enemy, allies will heal 3% of your max health over the duration. However, I much prefer Aftershock. The reason I much prefer Aftershock is especially in the laning phase. When you use your Grand Entrance, which is the ability that I'm going to talk about in a moment, you'll notice it. It is a knock-up, it counts as CC. You're going to proc Aftershock, and it's going to make you much, much tankier. So I personally prefer Aftershock, but Font of Life is also a perfectly valid option. Because you apply a lot of CC, Weakness is probably the best rune here. You don't have to worry too much about Brutal for the damage. Just going for Weakness is best because it helps facilitate your team. I like Loyalty. It's the best support rune in the game in terms of defensive support runes because you're sharing those resistances across you and your ally. And then I like Hunter Genius here. I don't particularly like Pack Hunter. You get 2% movement speed for each ally, a unique ally you participate in a takedown with. That's 10% movement speed, which is relatively decent, but it takes a little while to get value. I actually quite like having the cooldown reduction on Rakan. However, you might want to consider both. Again, Pack Hunter and Hunter Genius are perfectly viable. If you're looking to roam a lot more across the map, then Pack Hunter may be the one for you. Or if you're just looking to be more effective in team fights, then you might want Hunter Genius. Both of these runes are perfectly fine. In terms of spells, it really depends on what your AD carry is going. If your AD carry takes Barrier, you can take Heal for a super defensive lane setup. You might want to take Exhaust if you're going into a matchup where you need it versus like a Kennen, a Zed, an Olaf, for instance. Or if you want to be aggressive, if you're going into an Enchanter lane that you think you can win, or just going into a lane matchup that works well, then you might want to consider going for Ignite. Okay, so that is the brief breakdown of items and runes. What about ability maxing? Well, let's talk about that now. So when it comes to Rakan, you do have options when it comes to leveling abilities, but this particular level path is the one that I think works in the majority of situations. You max your Grand Entrance first, followed by your third ability. So you max your second ability, followed by your third ability, which is Battle Dance, and finally you max your Gleaming Quill, which is your first ability. Of course, whenever you get the point, you'll always put a point into the Quickness, which is obviously your ultimate, because that's the one that you want to max whenever you have the option to. But other than that, you want to max your second ability, followed by your third ability, followed by your first ability. This is a more offensive setup. It gives you the cooldown reduction on your Grand Entrance. It gives you the cooldown reduction on your Battle Dance, and obviously then increases the shielding value. And honestly, the heal that you get from your first ability is not absolutely insane. There are some instances where you might want to max your first ability. If you're going into a matchup where you can't actually engage, like an Alistair, for instance, where it's difficult to find an engage, and you may want to just poke them as much as possible with your first ability, then you might want to max that. But I find that especially around dragon fights, it's much better to have the increased damage on your Grand Entrance as well as the cooldown reduction, because that makes it much more effective in team fights. So this is my personal recommendation in terms of maxing abilities, and I think that you should follow this one in the majority of your games. The first ability is Fey Feathers. Every 17.6 seconds, Rakan gains a 255 health shield, which scales with the level and also AP. Attacks and abilities on enemy champions reduce this cooldown by 1 second. So essentially, the more that you're engaging with the enemy, the more quickly that you're going to get this passive off cooldown, and you get a relatively beefy shield from this as well. So pretty simple passive, realistically. The second part of his passive is that you're able to recall at the same time as Xayah. So essentially, if Xayah starts a recall and you head over to her, you will be able to recall with her. And as long as she has initiated the recall, you will go back at exactly the same time without having to channel your own recall at all. The same as if you're recalling and Xayah joins you, you will be able to carry her back to the fountain, and she won't actually have to go through the full recall at all. Okay, let's move on to his first ability, Gleaming Quill. Flings a magical feather that deals magic damage, scaling with AP. The feather then, if the feather hits a champion or epic monster, which includes the dragon or the baron, Rakan restores 120 health, which scales with level and also AP to himself and nearby allies, after 3 seconds or when he touches an ally. So I'm going to show you that in action. You can see the range of it right here. You fling a feather, and you can immediately heal an ally if you're in the range of them. I'm going to show you that again in just a moment. I forgot to turn cooldowns off, but here we go. I have this little ring around me, and boom. One of the things that you can do, and one of the things that is a little combo with Gleaming Quill, and I'll show you as part of the combos later, is you can Grand Entrance, you can Gleaming Quill, and then dash back to an ally and give them the heal off the back of the Grand Entrance. So essentially, as long as you're able to land the Gleaming Quill, you can use the shield that you have to essentially heal them at the same time as well. It's a relatively simple combo. It's one of the easiest combos to pull off with Rakan in its entirety. Like this, and you heal the ally, and you also give them a shield. It's a nice little defensive play with Rakan. Okay, this is the ability that makes Rakan one of the most fun supports to play in the game. This is called Grand Entrance. Dashes to a location, and upon arrival, Rakan leaps into the air, dealing magic damage, which scales with AP and knocking up enemies for 1 second. The cooldown goes down significantly by 6 seconds overall with levels. The mana cost goes up and the base damage goes up significantly as well. And again, I just showed you the ability in action. You have a brief range like this, and as long as the enemies are inside that range, they get knocked up. It's a really great engage tool. One of the things that you can do with this, and one of the great combos with Rakan, which makes him so fun to play, is this combo right here. So I do this, I dump in, and then I dive back to my ally. And that's basically one of the most simple but effective offensive combos that you can pull off with Rakan. You use your shield to dive to the ally. Use a grand entrance to knock up, and then you dive back, relatively safe, but you get the engage off as well. And you can see the aftershock procced as well. My aftershock procced when I went for the grand entrance. That's why I like this, just in case that you don't want to use the shield to get away. You have the aftershock, which obviously is on cooldown right now, but you'd have the aftershock to give you those extra tanky stats and deal a little bit of extra damage in the area. Battle Dance flies to an allied champion, granting them a shield that absorbs a base damage that scales with AP. It can be recast for free within 5 seconds. When cast on Xayah, the shield amount is doubled and the cooldown is reduced. So you get a huge shield, and this is why Xayah and Rakan are supposed to work really well in lane. You get a huge shield with Battle Dance, which can be cast twice on an ally like this. And if you cast it twice, you can just essentially give them the shield twice. I've just showed you most of the combos that can be pulled off with both Battle Dance and Grand Entrance. Again, one of the full combos that you can pull off with Rakan is this, make sure you cast your Q, and then heal your ally. This combos all three of your abilities together, and I'm going to just take my cooldowns off so I can do this more frequently. But essentially, it's a very simple combo. Dive into your ally, knock up the enemy, use your first ability, and then heal your ally on the way out. That is a very bread and butter combo that you should learn and you need to learn when playing Rakan. Okay, the Quickness. Gains 50% movement speed for 4 seconds. Touching enemies deal 300 magic damage, which scales with AP and charms them for 1.5 seconds. This may only occur once per unit. The first champion charmed grants Rakan 100% decaying movement speed. This is an amazing ability, and again, there are lots of ways that you can combo it. I'll show you the ability in its entirety first. You gain the movement speed and charm, and suddenly you have a huge amount of movement speed, and you can see the charm pulls the enemies towards you. This also counts as an ability that will proc Aftershock, so it's another good way of keeping yourself safe when going for a more risky engage. So one of the things about the Quickness is you can use it in conjunction with Grand Entrance to get the initial proc off, and obviously then dive back to your allies whenever you see fit. You can also use this and flash in, so you just flash, and then you can use the Grand Entrance to follow up once they have already been charmed. And again, there are lots of combos that you can pull off with the Quickness, but realistically, one of the things that you often see Rakans do is dive to an enemy, the Quickness, use the Grand Entrance, dive back once you've grouped everybody up, and let your team do the work. So those are the very basic combos when pulling off anything with Rakan. Hopefully this has helped you understand the Rakan in greater detail, as well as looking at some of the more basic combos that you can do, and hopefully this helps you become more fluid with him in game. He's incredibly good. I think he's strong. I think there's even potentially an AP build path that you can play with Rakan. Haven't looked into it yet though, so I'm not going to get ahead of myself. But that's Rakan for the time being. Now let's move on to Xayah. Okay, now we're going to talk about Xayah, the pairing to Rakan. Xayah is an incredibly strong, very basic attack orientated marksman, and as such, this in my opinion is the best item build for her. Now, I think because Blade of the Ruined King is strong, we could definitely see a Blade of the Ruined King Infinity Edge combo that definitely could be come through, but I think for the most part, Xayah is a very critical strike-based marksman, and this is the standard build that I would recommend to begin with. Things obviously may change as the game progresses. We always find new builds that work out, but if you want a build that is going to serve you well, especially relatively kind of medium to low elos like silver to platinum, this build will work fine for Xayah to begin with. Infinity Edge into Rapid Fire Cannon, into whichever boots you think suit the situation. So again, you don't have to go Quicksilver, you don't have to go the Vamp boots, you could go Ninja Tabai or Mercury Treads, you could go Stasis. That is flexible, as any boot build path is. I always say that it's flexible. I quite like then thinking about Guardian Angel as a third item, into Phantom Dancer, and then into Mortal Reminder. Mortal Reminder could come earlier if you've got a lot of armor. Guardian Angel could come later if you feel that you're relatively safe. Again, feel free to mix this build path up, but this is like a good, solid, full item build for Xayah that I think you should play. In terms of runes, I really like Conqueror. I also really like Gathering Storm. I think Xayah is just kind of a scaling AD carry, and this plays into her favor. I often think like the difference between Brutal and Gathering Storm is really interesting. So Brutal gives you 7 AD and 2% armor penetration. Okay, in order to match the AD at the very basic level, you need to be playing in the game for 8 minutes. Now most games go on for an average of between 15 and 20 minutes. So you're going to get, I don't know, like 8 to 10 AD more if you're in the game for 16 minutes. And so I always think like Gathering Storm's like a really bad rune, because realistically I can get 7 AD and 2% armor penetration straight off the bat. So actually I'm changing my mind. I think Brutal's better. I think for the sake of 10 AD, having that 7 AD straight at the start of the game is often a lot better for the laning phase and for the first dragon fight. And I think that the Gathering Storm's a little slow. And also you don't actually get that much AD from Gathering Storm. Neither do you get much armor penetration from either. And that 2% armor penetration is actually pretty legitimate. So, you know, I think Brutal's probably better overall. I like Backbone, but also you can consider Hunter Titan. I think both of them are fine. The reason I like Backbone is because it gives you just a flat amount of armor or magic resist depending on what you need. And especially in the bot lane, armor can be really useful. But Hunter Titan is also fantastic. The tenacity can't be matched. You just have to make sure that you're getting involved in kills. And then I always like Honey Fruit as an AD carry. I don't think there are many other runes that challenge Honey Fruit as the best AD carry rune. The extra sustain and the extra gold is fantastic. In terms of summoner spells, you're either running heal or you're running barrier. Doesn't matter which one. If you're running barrier, your support should be running heal. If you're running heal, your support should be running exhaust or ignite. Don't go double heal. So that's a very basic rundown of Xayah's item build path and what I think the best runes are. I know I kind of changed my mind on the fly here, but my mind's always thinking. That's kind of how it goes. In terms of abilities to max, it's a relatively straightforward build path for Xayah. You max your third ability first, obviously after your ultimate. I feel like that goes without saying now, guys. You definitely max your ultimate first, but yeah, you max your third ability first, followed by your second ability, and then finally you max your first ability. This is basically the accepted and most popular build path by a significant margin for Xayah. There is some people that like to max Q second, but I have no idea why. You should really be maxing third ability, second ability, first ability. Simple as that. Really no questions asked when it comes to altering the build path. I know there are some differences with Rakan, but for Xayah, this is pretty much 100% the way that you play her in every single game that you play. Okay, let's start with Xayah's passive, Clean Cuts. After using an ability, Xayah's next 3 attacks will hit all enemies along their path and drop feathers she can recall. Xayah can store up to 5 feathers at a time. She also has the same recall ability as Rakan, in the sense that if she starts recalling and Rakan joins her, they will both go back to the summoning platform at the same time. Pretty simple, but this Clean Cuts, the feathers mechanic, we're going to talk about as we talk about some of the other abilities. The first of which is Double Daggers. Throws 2 daggers, each dealing 135 physical damage, scaling with bonus AD, and leaving 2 feathers. The targets hit after the first take 50% damage. So, in this case, obviously it's a line skill shot. The first person takes full damage. The second and third all take 50% damage. And you can see they leave 2 feathers over at the site where you fired them. So like this. You see that 2 feathers are over there. And just to demonstrate her passive, she drops 3 feathers and then no feathers after that, after she uses an ability. So once you use Double Daggers, you can then fire 3 extra feathers at the same time. And you see they will all drop behind Xayah, and they have these little arrows on them, which I'm going to talk about in a moment once we get to her other abilities. Deadly Plumage creates a storm of blades that grant, for 4 seconds, that grants 40% attack speed, and it causes attacks to deal 20% more damage. So for 4 seconds, you get a 20% damage boost and an attack speed boost. If Deadly Plumage strikes an enemy champion, gain 40% movement speed for 2 seconds. If Rakan is nearby, he will also gain the effects of the skill. Xayah and Rakan, by the way, as you might be able to tell, are an incredibly good duo bot lane. Leveling this ability up grants you some cooldown reduction, it increases the attack speed, and increases the movement speed. So this is the ability that you max second, because you get that attack speed boost and that movement speed boost. So I'll show you this. Use it here, and you see I've dropped 2 feathers, 3 feathers, and now I'm just going back to normal basic attacks, and that's 3 feathers in the floor, and they've got an increase in attack speed, movement speed, and also drop those feathers behind as well. I'll show you again. Get the movement speed bonus. This is really good for kiting, and I dropped all those feathers behind the target as well. So you see the third ability that's glowing. Let's talk about the third ability. Calls back all feathers, dealing 115 physical damage, although obviously as Deadly Plumage is active, it was dealing more. So deals 97 physical damage with scaling with bonus AD to enemies they pass through. Hitting an enemy with 3 feathers roots them for 1 second. This is the ability that you max first. The reason you max this ability first is you get a cooldown reduction and the base damage goes up as well. And this is the main way that you deal damage with Xayah. So I'm going to show you this. You double dagger, that's 3. Recall, and the enemy is rooted. You're also dealing significant damage as well. So obviously you want to make sure that whenever you're recalling, you're looking to get 3 daggers on an enemy. So I'm going to show you here. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to get 3 more here. I can recall all of them for a load of damage and getting the roots off as well. So whenever you use an ability, you're going to have these feathers stored up. So casting an ability stores the feathers. And one of the things that's really interesting, as you'll note in a minute, is that whenever you use an ability, you gain yourself 3 feathers. So you can do this, proc this, and then you're going to get back to 5 feathers like this, and you can stack all of these feathers up and then deal a huge amount of damage to a single target using your 3rd ability. That's some of the basic combos of Xayah. The ultimate, this is what makes Xayah really strong. Leaps into the air, becoming untargetable and throwing out a fan of daggers which deals physical damage, scaling with a lot of your bonus AD, and leaving behind a line of feathers. You can move while in the air. I'm going to show you this right now. Boom, like this. All of those feathers go behind the targets. You can even just then use this and then recall all of them back to you, dealing a load of damage. The most important thing about this ability is I'm going to go to 0 cooldowns now. Is the fact that you can essentially, if you're getting CC'd or targeted or Malphite ultimated or whatever, boom, you're untargetable and you're able to move away. And then you can go back to kiting however you want to do it, and you're stacking up all of these feathers like this and bring them all back to you, and you deal a huge amount of damage and root the target. Some of the most basic concepts with Xayah, she's a relatively simple AD carry to get your head round. She's very basic attack focused, as you can see. But really, what you need to do is just be making sure that you are taking note of where your feathers are. Where are your feathers? How many feathers are you rooting on the enemy? Like this. You can get multiple roots off with... also, that's the wrong ability. You can get multiple roots off with 1 feather. So I'll show you here. If I just cast 2 through these lines and then just cast 1 more. If I call the feathers back through all of those lines, everybody gets rooted. So the feathers will hit everybody in a line coming back to you, and as long as they get hit by 3, they get rooted. That's one of the really big things that makes Xayah a big lane bully, but also makes her really, really strong in team fights because she can essentially root the entire enemy team, whilst also remaining safe using her ultimate. Now, obviously, to be able to make sure that you use your ultimate and actually get a stun off, I would recommend that you use your ultimate followed by your first ability, like this. So then you just use your first ability straight afterwards, and as long as you're using it directly in front of you, you're going to get at least 1 root off, even if you don't land a basic attack at all. But obviously you need to be making sure that you're weaving in those basic attacks to ensure that you're able to recall those daggers and get the root off as such. So a lot of Xayah's power comes from the ability to throw daggers out and recall them, looking to get the roots. Again, she's a relatively simple AD carry to get your head round. There isn't many like super insane combos to pull off with her. You just need to make sure that you're managing the feathers that you're outputting. And obviously you want to make sure that when you're using an ability, you basic attack at least once, so that when you use your next ability, you're not wasting any feathers. Because wasting your feathers means you're going to lose DPS. So it's all about feather management and making sure that when you recall them, you're looking to get a root off at the very least. But this is really the basic concepts of Xayah and her abilities in total. So hopefully that was helpful for you to understand how to play Xayah. And now I'm going to show you some clips of me playing Rakan in a game where I got an MVP performance. I'm going to publish the full video tomorrow, but I just want to show you some of the combos that Rakan can pull off. I have yet to play Xayah. I'm not really an AD carry main, so I'm sure when I play with Stuart tomorrow, we'll be able to get some good clips of that. But for the most part, enjoy these Rakan clips because they are some good examples of how Rakan can be played in teamfight and skirmish situations.
Nice.
You have slain an enemy.
Oh, baby. He's so good. I fucking love Rakan, dude.
Top turret is under attack.
Push this tower. Yeah, just go in for Ocean Drake.
Oh, man. Probably on the fight now. What am I doing?
You have slain an enemy.
Oh, Jesus.
Rampage.
Okay. I want diamond, dude. I want it back. Give me back diamond. Soul's on the side lane.
I'm gonna TP now.
Oh. Holy shit, I can't. You just can't stop down.
How am I still alive? What the,
What's going on?
this is Rakan, dude. Just all over the place all the time. Someone block it for me. Someone block it for me. I hope that you enjoyed those little clips. The full video will be coming tomorrow where I had a really insane Rakan game, and I hope you enjoy it. I've been playing on my phone recently. I had to move from my phone tablet to my phone because the field of view issues were really getting in the way of me enjoying the game. Sorry, I'm just putting my tablet on the floor now. So my phone's actually been going really well for me. I think it's actually been a really insane performance upgrade. There was no signal now because I just disconnected my iPad, but there we go. Enjoy the video. If you liked it, feel free to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys very soon.